So hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. We're here with Ashley Shanley, and this is our last of the week webinars, TGIF. It's Friday, April 17th. Ashley is going to give us information about tips and tricks for distance learning. And Ashley is an instructional design specialist at Ocean County College, and she's also a student at New Jersey City University. And she'll talk more about her and about some of the things she's going to show us today. So thank you so much, Ashley.
Of course, thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited. And like I said before, I don't know if anyone hopped on a little late, but I am not an expert in this. I have a few years experience working as a technology teacher, being in the ed tech field. So if you have any tips or questions or any tools that I talk about, don't be overwhelmed. If you have anything to piggyback off of what I'm saying, feel free to just unmute yourself or, hop in the chat and we can all just discuss, because I feel like collaboration will definitely be helpful in the long run as a teacher, as a student, as a parent. So feel free just to, hop on whenever. So I have some tips and I have some tricks. So just a little bit about me, so you guys know who I am and where I'm coming from. I currently am an NJCU Educational Technology graduate student, and I will be graduating in May, graduating virtually. And I graduated Rutgers previously with a BA in psychology and a certification in educational technology. So I took that and I became a tech teacher. I have 3 years experience as a K-8 technology teacher. And recently, last June, I moved away from the classroom and I'm kind of more on the back end now in higher education as an instructional design specialist at Ocean County College. So I, focus more on the instructional design aspect of courses online, building different courses and working closely with faculty to, integrate different tools and technology into their online distance learning courses. So 3 important things I want to cover throughout this presentation. The first one is not to stress, because I know that the world is very uncertain right now and there's a lot of fear and a lot
Oh my God, yeah.
Just by, turning on the TV, going onto social media, everything is overwhelming. So as an educator or as a student, we're all in this together, and I feel like all of these webinars have been so helpful for everybody involved. So don't stress over it, because we will come up with solutions. Explain what's happening and maybe show and tell your students how they can work together, not only to stop the spread, with social distancing and washing their hands, but just being nice people. A lot has gone on TV and on social media, sharing all of the amazing things that people are doing. So kind of just integrate that maybe into your virtual classroom, and it will definitely go a long way. Next would be the tips and tools, the main part. So I'm going to be giving you a lot of links, a lot of tools, and some tips, how to take care of yourself and your students and how to keep the parents involved. Don't be overwhelmed. I know maybe some of you guys have used these tools before. Some of them maybe have worked great for you, maybe some of them haven't. So if you find that one of them worked in a certain way, feel free to share that, because it definitely will help, a lot of people. Be patient and accept the learning curve. This is a huge learning curve, and there are going to be mistakes. Technology doesn't always want to work the way that we want it to. So expect that, things may go wrong. So just be patient and be flexible overall. A lot is changing, transitioning to online learning is not easy. It's very overwhelming. So you want to be patient and you want to be flexible with your students and of course their parents. All right. Who's this? Okay. Are we good?
Sorry, guys. We just kicked out some people.
Thank you.
No problem. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. All right. So I think we're good.
Yeah.
And lastly, mental health. So this is definitely something that is super important that a lot of people have, been bringing to the forefront. How to keep your mental health in check while being a remote learning rock star, because I know that teachers have been doing an amazing job. Students have been doing an amazing job, and we want to make sure that you guys are okay as teachers, as administrators, and make sure that your students are okay. How have you been coping with the change? We can open this up to discussion, maybe talk about how some things that you do during the weekends or after work, maybe you have a glass of wine, how that helps you cope with all of the craziness that's going on. So first I want to talk about keeping learners calm and keeping them informed. In order for remote learning to be successful, there's a lot that depends on the students being good digital citizens. So I don't know if you guys know what a digital citizen is, but as I was teaching elementary school, I focused on this all year round. Being a digital citizen means being a good person online, communicating effectively and, appropriately, like some people don't do during these Zooms, but it's really important for students to know how to respond to discussion posts or, in a virtual lesson like this. So I have a link that brings us to Common Sense Education. And it has a bunch of different lesson plans that you can send your students, based on their grade level, K to 12. And it talks about how you can be a good digital citizen. So media balance, how to, not share your passwords with anybody, digital footprints, which means, how you act online represents who you are as a person. So these are really, really helpful. You don't have to give them as assessments. You don't have to, grade them. It's just a little bit of information that your students might, benefit from. I also have been getting questions from my elementary school teacher friends that their students are questioning why they're home. They don't know, really what's going on. And there's been a mixed messages. Should you talk about what's really happening? Should you leave it to the parents? So it's really up to you and how you're conducting your classroom. But I found this amazing brain pop that talks about keeping your learners calm and keeping them informed. So it kind of talks about viruses and it goes by grade level. So K to, third grade talks about washing your hands. Very important, clearly. So it's just a little quiz, and then there's a 3-minute video. There's a quiz, you can make a map, you can do a little activity. There's just a bunch of things that you can talk about. If you don't feel comfortable bringing this into your classroom, I know a lot of teachers kind of want to stray away from it. If parents are asking you, do you have any resources? I feel like these videos could be really helpful just because they're, it's just basic things, how to wash your hands, how to, keep your hands to yourself, don't touch other people, which we should, be teaching from a young age. And then I found this Mr. Rogers quote, which I think is great. When I was a boy, I would see scary things in the news, and my mother would say to me, look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. So this is really, really important right now. There are so many people who are helping, and there's a lot of scary things. So sharing this with your classroom, maybe putting it in your Google Classroom or sending it in an email, just so your students know there's a lot going on, but there's people who are there to help you. Now we're going to break it down. And I know that teachers and students have been in the trenches for almost over a month. So what you need, obviously, is a good microphone and a good webcam. A lot of Chromebooks and laptops come with this already, but of course, Amazon sells them. So those two things will get your point across for virtual classrooms. Next, I want you to represent your teaching style, just like you would in the classroom. So as you can tell, I was an elementary school teacher, and my entire presentation is pink, and it's colorful, and it's got crazy fonts and pictures of Mr. Rogers. So I want you to represent who you are in your virtual lessons, because your students need that. They need that connection, and they need the familiarity of that. Next would be to be a home base. So what that means is your learning management system, or if you have a Google Sites or a Weebly, just somewhere to put all of your links and your content for students to reach it in one spot, so they're not all over the place trying to find all of these links. It's in one spot, they can find it quickly, and they're not confused. Virtual lessons is a big thing. Recording yourself, should you have live recordings, should you have recorded ones that you send out, we'll talk about all of that. And then finally, documenting everything as a teacher. We do this anyway. Any conversations that you have with students or parents through email or discussion posts or video conferencing, make sure that you just write notes about what you're talking about in case it comes up down the line. So finding a home base is your learning management system or your website. When I was teaching elementary school, we use Google Classroom. So basing it off of that, I find that remote teaching is so helpful when you create a weekly syllabus. So you would share this weekly with your students, and their parents obviously can see it. I'll click on this and I will bring you to my Google Classroom. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be, intricate, just nice and basic what you're doing for the week. I just put a little note and then attached my schedule, remote learning week 4, syllabus, my name, and then I broke it down into specific parts. So what we'll learn based on each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and just a short little intro. Next is your online class expectations. So your students walk into their classroom and they have set expectations. They know what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to unpack their book bags. They're supposed to maybe go to circle time. They know what to do. It has to be routine the same way virtually. So I have the 4 Bs: be kind, be prepared, be aware of deadlines, and be excited. You want them to enter this classroom, even if it's for 30 minutes a day, the time limit, and be excited. You want them to know that you're excited to see them. You're excited to see their work. And nothing really has changed. It's just through a computer. Required materials, obviously they're going to need their Chromebook and things like that. And then office hours. This is so important. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation. But just because you are working from home doesn't mean you are available 24/7. You should have set office hours. So the school day, obviously, maybe it's 8 to 3 or whatever your school hours are. Make sure you set aside office hours for any questions or any concerns so that you're not up at midnight answering emails, because I know that teachers will be. They will feel bad and they'll want to answer all of your questions. So make sure you're setting those office hours and sending them to your parents and your students so they know when you are available to be contacted. And then next, just, my email. If you have social media that relates to your classroom, maybe some of your activities, classroom code, and then just my cell phone. So that is my schedule. And since this is a new thing that we're doing, remote learning, you don't want to overwhelm your students. You want to teach in small chunks. So spread your lessons out over days, even do review from what you've been doing in the classroom. So teaching in small chunks would look like Monday, maybe introducing a topic, having a video, maybe a short discussion question. Tuesday, you could go back, talk about the discussion question. Wednesday, review, maybe give them a few questions. And then Thursday, Friday, give an assessment, nothing too crazy. You want to break it out over a long period of time so they can, understand and grasp the content. And then discussion posts. There's a lot of people who feel different ways about discussion posts. They don't know if they're beneficial or not, but I feel like discussion posts are a great way to engage your students, not only with the teacher, but each other. And I feel like right now students need to be interacting with one another. So just like we do in our grad school classes on Blackboard, maybe we could pose a question, have them respond to the question, and then the next day they can respond to 2 or 3 classmates and kind of just go back and forth about the content. So I feel like it will give them, the power to understand what they're learning as well as talk to their friends, because they definitely need that right now. Another question that I've been getting from my teacher friends is, the younger students don't know the keyboard. They always use paper and pencil. When they were in the classroom, maybe they use Chromebooks or iPads, you know, a couple times a week, not too much. So they don't know how to type that fast. So they're having a hard time transitioning to keyboarding. So I have a few games that I like to give my students when I was teaching, and it really, really gets them involved and it gets them engaged and they get excited. So this is my favorite game ever. It's called Nitro Type. I don't know if anyone knows what it is, but it's real time and it's a typing competition. So you can go in and you can race as a guest. And I would do this with them and they would go crazy. Like I would beat them and they would say, Miss Shanley, what are you doing? But they give you a writing prompt at the bottom and then they tell you to go. And I'm gonna type. It can be a simple. Yeah, and then it turns red when you're wrong. Technology years ago. Most. And then you end, and then it shows you, oh, I came in first place. So it's really, really fun. It gets them excited because it doesn't really feel like they're, you know, learning anything, but it's more game-based. So it's really exciting and they really love it, and it gets them familiar with the keyboard, which is definitely important right now. Next is Kids Type. And this is more basic. It's more home row lessons because, you know, students are typing with their 2 fingers. It takes them a long time. So it breaks down all of the sections of the keyboard. It's still fun, but it's not, you know, it's not racing cars. And then the last one is Keyboard Invasion. So this brings you to ABCA, which I really love. It's all game-based learning with Common Core standards. So we're gonna run this, if it works. Okay, and it's just aliens. And it's a little loud, but you don't want the aliens to get to Earth. So you just have to keep typing and then they go away once you complete the word. So they find that to be really fun. And if your students are having a hard time typing or, you know, getting interested in using computers or technology, they're not used to it, this is definitely a great way to introduce keyboarding to them. Next, everyone needs a little bit of help with virtual lessons. So test them out. Before I did this, I probably recorded myself like 14 times, making sure that everything was working so I didn't come on here and look crazy and like I didn't know what I was doing. So you want to test out everything before you send it out to your students because it could be a disaster. If you're recording yourself, sit with a wall behind you or a green screen. I know a lot of people have been using green screens. If you love Disney, maybe you could put like the Magic Kingdom castle behind you or something like that just to get them engaged. But you don't want it to be, you know, too overwhelming, so don't make it too crazy. Sound excited. If your students are on a virtual lesson or you send out a link, you want them to know that you're excited to talk to them, you're excited to be there, and you miss them. You want to sound like, you know, you want to be in the classroom and get them, you know, really pulled in. Speak clearly and speak slowly. I have a hard time with that. I speak pretty fast. But lessons don't need to be live. And I would recommend if you teach K-12 or if you teach higher education, whichever one, there's a lot going on right now and people have crazy schedules, even though, you know, they should be home. There's a lot with work. If you teach high school, maybe some students work in grocery stores. Maybe they're on the front lines. Maybe their parents are in the front lines. So they might not have the time to attend your meeting at 8:15 a.m. or something like that. So even if you do get a good handful of your students, record it and then send out the link and it will definitely benefit them in the long run. So I have 2 screen recording tools right here, Loom. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Loom. I feel like a lot of schools have been using it. It's very simple. It's just a screen recording tool. And all you have to do, of course, these are mine that I was practicing. is click new video. And then it gives you the option to record, so you can do your screen and your camera, your screen only, or your camera only, and then you click start recording. Once you do that, you click this and it will stop. And you can send out a link, you can save it to your computer. It's very, very simple and very effective. So I really like this tool. It's free, which is awesome. Screencastomatic is another one that I've been using for a very long time. I used it when I was at Rutgers. I used it for a lot of my grad school classes. And I use it now in my current job because I do make a lot of videos for, faculty. So this is free also. There is an option to pay for it, but you don't have to. So all you would do is start the recording and it records whatever is on your screen. So you would launch the free recorder. And this would be great, if you want to read a book to your students, or if you want to explain instructions for a project or something like that. You would just record whatever's on your screen. You could record yourself and then send it out to them, and they can rewind and fast forward, whatever is up to them. So once this works, it just outlines your screen like this. You see these dots, and then it's just the same thing as Loom, screen, webcam, or both. You click record, and then it starts recording whatever is inside of this box. So then once you're finished, you would just click done, and you can save it to the Screencast-O-Matic platform, or you can upload it to your computer, or you can get a link. It's very, very simple, and I really find it to be a great tool. Next would be Nearpod. I love Nearpod. It's so interactive. And I just found actually that the student piece you should pay for, but now because of everyone doing remote learning, it's free until April 30th. So if you want to send it out to your students and have them do it at their own pace, not a live lesson, you can do that for free, which I feel like is definitely so helpful. Oops. So I have this code that I'm going to type in. And there's a lesson that I find to be awesome. And now that it's spring, a lot of students are missing field trips. So this could be a really great way to get them to a virtual field trip. So I'm going to type in this code, and it's going to take me to the session right here. And then you just type in your first and last name or a nickname, whatever you feel comfortable with your students doing. And we're going to go to New York, because I would love to be in New York right now. So we're going to visit the Empire State Building. First, it gives you a teacher guide. Obviously, you can write down your notes and talk about the video. It gives you an essential question, which is great. And then it gives you objectives, which we all need and we all love. And then we can get started. So I'm just going to move this over here. And then, what do you know about the Empire State Building? Why do you think it's famous? Represent your answer. So students can draw a picture of it. They can type words. They can say it's in New York City. All right. And then go to the next slide. And it takes you on a virtual field trip, which is awesome. So if you click this, it shows you New York City. It's amazing. So you take your mouse and you can just tell your students to look around, maybe see if anything sticks out to them. Have them, explore the city, and then they can move on. They give you a street view, which is so cool. And then once you get to the next screen, it says fill the chart with your observations and questions. So we're going to come here, and you could type in any observation. So I'm going to say the buildings were huge. And then my question would be, how many floors are on the Empire State Building? Something like that. And then it's going to show them a short video. So you don't have to have them take notes. If they want to just remember it, that's fine. It's really short. I think it's like 1.5 minutes. I'm not going to show it just to save time. But then there's different options like think, pair, share, which might be a little hard since they're at home, but maybe they could do it with their parents or their brothers and sisters. And they can talk about what information they learned about the Empire State Building. They can draw pictures, they can type it however they feel comfortable, which also gives them a sense of choice, and it helps them, maybe be creative. Maybe some students are more creative than they are, with their words, which is totally fine. And then they can make a poster. So they're going to list 3 to 5 important facts that they learned throughout this entire presentation. And then they are going to draw it or write it right here in their blank page. And then they're going to reflect on it. So it's just a really engaging lesson. It doesn't have to be about the Empire State Building. You can also make your own. Nearpod lets you make your own slides, or you can upload Google Slides, which is, an amazing way to create your own slides and then make them interactive for your students. So there's also some small assessment. Did you learn something new? We could say yes. Another poll, how much effort did you put into your poster? I didn't put that much in, but a lot of people are going to put a lot. Okay, and then did this lesson make you want to visit the Empire State Building? So they're just little questions, to get them thinking, to get them involved, and then the teacher will get each of their responses, which is a great way to see how interactive they were throughout the presentation. Credits, and then that's that. So I feel like this is definitely a great way to keep them interested, keep them engaged, and for a lot of the students that miss their field trips, you could choose something really, really cool and they can go wherever, virtually. I'm gonna present. So a lot of people are saying that it's hard to make connections with their students now that they're online. But there's so many different ways that you can. So video conferences, obviously Zoom, but of course there have been positives and negatives to Zoom. So video conferences, even FaceTiming, if students have a phone or their parents, there's a lot of different ways that you can do this. Another thing is discussion posts that I really feel are so beneficial. Teachers should hop on the discussion posts and they should pose questions to their students, just to get a little bit of engagement and interaction. And another tool that I love is Padlet. So I have this assignment that is my Padlet. I'm going to bring you here. So this is it's free, obviously, love the free. And my instructions were to review my Padlet and see what I've been doing with my time at home. Come up with your own version and share it to me via link. So this is my Padlet. And I just added a couple pictures and a few, things that I've been doing since I've been home. So I said I was reading books. I've read 3 books. I think about my students. I create fun assignments in Google Classroom. I play with my dog, and I've been running a lot. So students can take the time maybe to go around their home, take pictures of what they've been doing, maybe puzzles or reading books or spending time with their family. And that will, open up conversation between you and your students as well. Making connections with parents. So we don't see parents all the time in a classroom anyway, but there have been a lot more, more need to talk to parents now that we're remote. So they're probably confused. They're probably stressed, being homeschool teachers. So you want to check in on them and make sure that they're doing okay. So email, obviously, if you want to send like a weekly email on a Monday and a Friday, just to check in on the Monday and then say, have a good weekend on a Friday. The Remind app is great. So you can send your parents reminders, say, oh, Johnny's homework is due tomorrow, or say I could give him an extension if he's having a little trouble. Phone calls obviously are always great because you can understand the tone of, who you're talking to, and of course video conference, but that might not always be possible. So however you want to communicate with your parents, I'm sure is great. There's a lot of ways to do it. But make sure that you're checking in on them, check in on their children. Obviously, because it's really important that they don't feel alone, because this is, you know, a very uncertain time. There's a lot going on. They're probably working from home while their kids are, you know, in the background of their Zoom meetings. So you want to make sure that they're okay as well. And teacher burnout is real. So now that it is April, right? I think it's April. We're finally getting back from spring break and we're in the home stretch. We're not really sure if we're going to go back to school, if we're not. So it's really uncertain right now. But taking time for yourself is extremely, extremely important, because everything is just up in the air right now. So you want to make sure that you're okay as well, because as a teacher, as an educator, you think about everyone but yourself. So think of yourself during this time as well. I saw this tweet and I thought it was amazing. You are not working from home. You are at your home during a crisis trying to work. And that is so true. You are at home trying to balance everything at once, and you want to make sure your students are okay, their parents are okay, people on the front lines are okay, but make sure that you're okay. You want to make sure you take a breath, find what you need, and just relax, because we don't know when it will be over. We don't know if it will ever go back to normal, but you want to make the most of what you have right now. So I think that communication with your colleagues is so important. We all have that one teacher friend. We all have, you know, if we're in school still, we all have our classmates that we talk to. Make sure that you're keeping up with them. Ask them how they are. FaceTime them, text them, you know, send them memes. They love that. So communication is really, really important right now. You know, we're in isolation, but we shouldn't feel like we're in isolation. Like I said before, set office hours. They're so important. You're not working all the time. You shouldn't work all the time. You really need to find your work-life balance, which I put as well. It's necessary. It's really hard to find it because everything is in the same room right now. Your bedroom, your office, your kitchen, everything is in one spot. So if you go outside and take a walk, it's okay. You're allowed to. Mindfulness is really important. I love the Calm app. I don't know if anyone has used the Calm app. I'm sure they have. It's pretty popular. But it just, you know, the music, it tells you stories. It's very relaxing. And even just for like 2 minutes, if you listen to it, you just feel your stress like disappear, which is great. And finally, how are you guys doing? Because I've been talking a lot. But how is everybody else doing? Because I know that teaching and going to school and working all in one room, like I said, it's really, really stressful. So if anyone has anything to add, feel free. And I know this was probably a little overwhelming with all of the tools and everything that I was giving, but if anyone has any questions, or if they just want to say something, if they just want to, you know, say, I had a really, really long day, you know, feel free, because we're all in the same boat. And you really need to make sure that communication is, you know, happening.
Ashley, I would like to jump in and just say that this was really comprehensive and you did a great job providing a lot of tools here. There was a couple things that you mentioned that I really never used myself. And so I was taking notes like for myself to see how I could use that in my own practice. And I think some of those things, particularly like the Calm app, you know, because I do have instructors that ask me, hey, you know, what can I use for myself? And I would like to see if I can offer them something else. And I was not aware of some of those things. So I would like to see if I can provide some of that as a resource. And I'm going to look into it. So I appreciate that, Ashley.
Awesome. That's great. I'm glad I could. I can see in the chat. What did you use to create the graphic that you sent to students?
So yeah, Ashley, I wanted to just mention as well with Samantha that it was perfect that your program is today, because it really brought together all of the other webinars for the week and a lot of the things our other speakers were talking about. I thought, oh, perfect, it's the summary. And I just wanted to reiterate some of the things like office hours, holding specific office hours, really important. There's one thing, if you're using Zoom, you can use a personal ID when you create your Zoom, and that ID is specific to you. So that could be your office hour Zoom meeting anytime the students want to get to you. So you don't have to resend out a link if you're using Zoom.
That's great.
Yeah, it's just one little thing you can use. I love that you talked about structure and routine, and I'm particularly being excited because obviously we have to keep enthusiastic, really important.
Right.
The other thing you mentioned was mindfulness, and I know one of our alumni sitting here is actually did his dissertation on mindfulness with students, how important it was to relieve that stress. So I appreciate all of the things you've talked about. Some of the questions that I put into the chat while I was sitting there, because I didn't want to forget them, is when you send out the link to students that has your schedule and the links and your office hours, what type of graphics programs do you use to create really nice looking links for students and without having to do too much work, I hope?
I actually use PowerPoint for that one that I use in my Google Classroom, but I also find free ones on Teachers Pay Teachers. So if you just type in like syllabus or like I think I did weekly classroom, something like that, they're free. But the one that I use up here, I made just in PowerPoint with like different shapes.
And then just saved it as an image.
Right. Yep.
Great idea. Because PowerPoint also has that design feature where it'll take some of your images and make a cool design for you. So that's really cool. Good idea. The other question I had for you was when you gave us the code for the New York City tour, the virtual trip, where did you get that code? Is it open to everyone? And where can we find more?
So when you go into Nearpod as a teacher, you are able to explore all of the Nearpod lessons. So if you find one, whichever one, say it's like the New York City one, you click on it and then you add it to your library. So you have a Nearpod library, and it gives you that code that you can send out to students, and students just type that code in when they go to nearpod.com and it puts them in the lesson.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you so much. That's appreciative.
Of course.
I'll let other people ask questions now.
Anything? Nothing?
Actually, I do have a question for you, Ashley. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So your students, they're college age students, correct?
Right.
Now, what have you found to be one of the best tools that has worked for you in terms of being able to engage with them by asking them questions? Like, how are you getting immediate feedback from your students in your experience working with them online? Like, or is there a tool that is your go-to that you really like and that they've also given you positive feedback on?
Right. So right now I'm mostly working with faculty, but faculty have been giving me feedback on their student responses. We use WebEx because it integrates into Canvas. So we've been using WebEx to conduct meetings, whether they're live or recorded. And we also, like I said, the discussion posts. So Canvas, we post discussions in our distance learning courses, and students that, are traditional students that go to classes have been having a difficult time, transitioning to completely online. So the discussion posts kind of open up that communication. And as the instructors, we tell them, there is an option in Canvas to record yourself and post it in the discussion. So you can have, a visual of you as the instructor. And if they're having a hard time reading the answers to your discussion posts, you can talk to them and they can hear you. So we've been kind of giving them different options because it's not one size fits all. I think that that's really important to remember, especially traditional students. They are traditional students for a reason. They don't want to take online classes, and I totally get that. So I think that the Canvas tool with WebEx and discussion posts and posting videos of yourself, interacting with your students, I feel like it's definitely been helpful for them.
Thanks. I really appreciate that because that makes me feel like, okay, we should provide multiple formats for people, even if we're in the online environment. So I try to do that with like students that I worked with in the past as well. So, but I think that's something I'll look into too, that you mentioned that I never did, which was to post a video of myself. Generally it's audio that I'll post, but not necessarily a video of interaction of any kind. So I like that idea. So I'm going to steal that from you, Ashley.
Great, of course. I hope it works.
Yeah, one other question with regard to discussion posts, it's a lot of people use the discussion forums wrong. And I think it's important for you to talk about how do you engage students in conversations as opposed to requiring students to post essays. You know, oftentimes students will read a question and think, okay, let me write this 2-paragraph essay, submit it, and I'm done. It isn't a conversation. So how do you sort of engage people with each other and to be a little bit more casual rather than so formal?
Right. I feel like that is the tricky part. You want to make it open-ended. You don't want it to just be like a yes or no answer. I find that whether it's elementary school students or college age students, they love memes. If you send them pictures, they'll respond to them. Like I was in the webinar yesterday, the TikToks, everyone loves TikToks. I feel like if you just, hop on the trends that these students are facing right now, they will want to engage with you. I just feel like that's how it is. If you send them pictures, if you send them videos, it'll spark their interest a little bit more.
Excellent. Like the ideas. Be creative. Love it.
Right.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, Doug, great. Sure.
As far as discussion threads go, I work at a medical school, so I'm trying to encourage the faculty to ask the students to reflect. You have a topic like service learning. Find an article or some piece of information that reflects your point of view and in your therapeutic area of interest, and share that with the class. And so it's very personal. So they really have a reason to go find something and share with people. And it's more interesting, I think, for the other students, because they're actually getting to learn something that's more meaningful to their peers. So, having people search, which is nice to have them do, for something, that has like personal value, is more interesting than find the 6 somethings and list 3 of them.
Right.
Because nice font, is your response.
Right. If they find it to, be beneficial to them, if they feel like it has a special place with them, it'll definitely, help them a lot more in their discussion posts.
And then the faculty actually get to learn from all the research that the students are doing also, which is really nice.
That's
so they
great.
can spend their time doing other stuff and then come in and just kind of monitor and pick what they need.
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that. Bringing in personal experience is helpful. I agree with that. You also have to balance when people start telling too much and start sort of talking about their lives a little too much, and it annoys the other students. So I think there definitely has to be a balance, but I do think that, yeah, personal experiences certainly help. I also think another thing that I do is I ask questions. So when I notice that certain students maybe aren't participating as much, I might ask them specific pointed questions, or I might respond to those students particularly, asking for more information or something, just to get them to sort of talk a little more.
Yeah, exactly. Engage them a little bit. Yeah. Is there anything else?
Well, I think that you have given us so much to think about. We're going to need the Calm app.
Right. Tonight you're going to use it.
No, I so much appreciate. There are a lot of different text, tools in there that are wonderful. I'm going to look up a couple of them. I've written them down. So I'm hoping that you'll share with us your information that we can post to our website, so that all of those cool tools that you shared with us, we can go back and take a look at.
Great. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
No, you were wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for coming. I greatly appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Stay well.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, Ashley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Bye.
Hey.
Thank you, Ash.
Thank you.